Hello everybody, this is Moose101, and today I'm going to be discussing consistency in deck building, and as you're probably noticing by the incredibly shaky camera, I'm not using my standard camera, I'm actually using a tablet to record this. I wanted to give this a try just because I think the camera quality and sound quality might be a little bit better on this than my standard camera, but I don't actually have a tripod or anything for it, so it's going to be a little bit less stable. I just want to try it, and I figure because this is a discussion video where the cards I'm showing are more just examples than like important combo pieces or anything, it's going to be okay if the camera is a little bit shaky or anything. Sorry if this makes anyone seasick or something, because I recognize this problem, and if this ends up being better in terms of camera quality, I'll definitely look into getting a stand for this, because this could be a better solution than looking for a new camera altogether. So I'm going to get right into the video then. So consistency is a measure of how frequently a certain deck is able to produce specific cards or play sequences. A deck that is highly consistent will almost always be able to perform its standard play sequences, while a deck that is less consistent may produce more often situations where the cards available to the player do not synergize well enough with each other to allow anything meaningful to be accomplished. For the purposes of today's discussion, consistency is also going to extend to the availability of certain situational cards on a regular basis. So there are a few terms players use when discussing consistency. A toolbox deck is a deck in which situational cards are consistently available, allowing the player to pick and choose the right answer for a given situation, like how a builder carries the right tools for many different jobs in their own toolbox. And then dead cards, or more specifically cards that are like dead in the hand, are not immediately useful, due either to a lack of necessary combo pieces or other poor conditions that render it presently unusable, like an MSD if there's no spells or traps to hit. If a player bricks, it means that they drew a combination of cards, usually in their opening hand, that don't synergize well, and functionally leave the entire hand dead. So the player is unable to advance their game state at all, like they just set monsters and pass and don't get anything done. It's a bad time. A card that is described as cloggy has a tendency to be dead in the hand and contribute to brick openings. So how do you improve the consistency in your deck? One way is simply to include consistency cards, or cards that help reduce the number of brick hands you open with. There are two main types of consistency cards: draw power cards and then search cards. Draw power cards allow you to increase the number of cards that you get to see in your hand. Examples of that are things like Upstart Goblin, Trade In, and Moray of Greed, or I have a few other examples here that I will try to get visible with the camera. Um, Draw power cards have a few advantages over search cards, and that's firstly that draw cards are able to help you reach cards that are not searchable. Search cards also often have costs or additional effects involving other cards in your hand, draw cards often have these additional costs, but these certain costs, such as discarding or shuffling cards back into the deck, can actually be beneficial for moving cards to a more useful position, and it helps the player remove more than just one cloggy card from their hand, especially if it has a discard cost, such as something like Dodo Draw, or something like Wonder Wand, for instance. Its cost can trigger effect, so those are the kind of examples that I'm talking about. And then lastly, draw cards also have the ability to generate advantage more often than search cards, with effects that cost less cards from your hand than they gain you in draws. A good example of that is something like Gaga Draw, and I left Moray of Greed off the screen, but I mentioned that earlier. That's another draw card. But stuff like that, Gaga Draw will get you 2 cards by banishing cards out of your graveyard, so it actually increases the number of cards in your hand, and that's quite good. To be clear, neither the costs associated with the draw cards nor the potential to generate advantage are inherent to draw cards. There's nothing about draw cards that naturally makes them do that. But the trend thus far has been that these things are associated with draw cards rather than search cards. And so that's why I'm going to go ahead and list these as advantages of that type of card. So, move this stuff off to the side as we move on to the next section. So then the search cards, on the other hand, sacrifice those advantages for the ability to pick and choose what cards you need for a given situation. That's stuff like Elemental Hero Shadow Mist, that can be a search monster, as well as Emergency Call, Reinforcement in the Army, and the Hieratic Seal Convocation. I also didn't find that most of the time, if a monster is some sort of search card, it tends to be, some sort of consistency card, it tends to be a search card. There are monsters that have draw effects, but they tend to be much fewer than things that just on summon will search a card, something of that nature. But that's not really necessarily an advantage or disadvantage, it's just something to note. Running cards to different purposes that can be searched by the same card is one of the easiest ways to make your deck into a good toolbox, because any search card that also has the ability to search more than one card is just really fantastic for your deck. So for instance, in a deck with a lot of warriors that have a lot of answers to different situations, then Rhoda becomes a really great card, and Hero Shadow Mist is great because it can search all the different attributes from the masked heroes you want to go into, and Convocation is great because it can search any of the combo pieces you might happen to be missing. So they're really versatile for that way, and then they then exchange them to sacrifice the advantages that the draw cards have for that added inherent advantage of just being more specific and more reliable. Any search card that also has the advantages typically associated with draw cards, then, such as the ability to move one just put itself out of the hand, or further your setup or generate advantage, is amazing unless it has some sort of major drawback. Just because it's taking the best parts of both sides of the cards and turning them into one just consistency, ridiculous, I don't even know what to call it. Examples of that are stuff like Automata and Gagagas, or the new Gradle Impact. Those cards are just ridiculous because they generate advantage or let you move more than just themselves out of the hand, and they are still search cards, so they get you to what you need when you need it. Now, obviously, both these cards do have drawbacks, but they're still pretty fantastic cards. So, not every consistency card that goes into the main deck is strictly a draw or search card. So, for example, Pod Duality, I can't think of it as the quintessential draw or consistency card, honestly. It has some major drawbacks, but also has elements of both a draw card and a search card because it doesn't let you pick and choose exactly what you want, but does let you have some choice over that. So it's got a little bit of both in it. So both types of consistency cards allow you to thin your deck by taking cards out of it, and this increases your chances of seeing any card in your deck slightly. So over the course of many games, you'll see certain cards more often than your opponent if you're triggering more search and draw effects. And that includes powerful and non-searchable cards like Manny's MTS and Raigeki. So searching, drawing, all that stuff, it speeds up your deck, helps you get through faster, it thins your deck, and will get you those more powerful cards more often than your opponent will be able to get to them. So early in the video, I mentioned that consistency isn't just about what you see in your hand, but also how well you can produce answers to any given situation when the need arises. And one easy way to do this is with the extra deck, because you can select whichever monster you want to summon so long as you meet the summoning conditions. The extra deck is a great way to add consistency to your deck. The best example of how the extra deck can improve a deck's consistency is the pool of available rank 4 monsters. And I've got a few of them over here. The generic rank 4s are diverse and easy to summon, so any deck with a heavy focus on rank 4s benefits from a consistent toolbox without even needing to add any consistency cards into the main deck. So I know it's not really the standard consistency that you tend to think of, but it's closely related to a deck's ability to create a toolbox, which is a major element of consistency, because you're not sitting here with cards that are useless, because any 2 level 4 monsters can make any of these cards, so they'll never really be dead in your hand. And that's why that whole toolbox is just so really, really good and strong. Though it does suffer from the loss of some of its heavy utility cards, but it's a good example nonetheless. So I still have quite a lot I want to say about consistent deck building, so this topic is going to be a two-parter, and next week we'll be talking more about utility, synergy, and versatility, and how they should influence your deck building process. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope the new format isn't bothering people too much, and I hope I didn't make you seasick. If that is a problem, just let me know in a comment down below. I will change it back if I can locate my camera. But yeah, if you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and until next time, see ya!